Economics bridges the personal and the social. The personal is the world inside, our mind, values, thoughts, and desires. This is where the subjective ends of human action are formed. The social is the complex social order composed of the many exchange relationships that we participate in. The bridge between the social and the personal includes two supports: microeconomics, or price theory, and macroeconomics, coordination. This course is a concentration on macroeconomics, or social coordination, and especially on the institutions that have either emerged to facilitate cooperation or that have been designed to channel cooperation in one direction or another. When a new institution arises, the incentives of the individuals affected by that institution are altered. Macroeconomics is the examination of what new patterns of human behavior result from a change in the institutional structure of an economy. Well, what's an economy then? An economy is the nexus, the tapestry, the connections among the entire universe of exchange relationships. Suppose you're on a deserted island with only one other person. An economy might emerge between the two of you, with one person fishing all day and the other person collecting coconuts and then exchanging at the end of the day. The nexus of exchange relationships in that case extends no further than just the two of you. That's an economy. There's no need for money when there are only two people. Barter is usually good enough. Now, suppose instead you're part of a small tribe of hunter-gatherers in an isolated location with no contact with the outside world. To the extent that there exists exchange within that tribe, there is an economy. Sometimes such tribes are dominated by one or a few powerful chieftains who command and control who does what and who gets what. The individual members are not permitted to trade with one another without permission from the chief. Is that an economy? We would say no. We would say that that's a household. Interestingly, the ancient Greek word oikonomia, which sounds like economics, is actually the word for household management. Well, what part of, or what economy are you a part of? Is a community the same as an economy? What about if we treat conversations as economic in nature, as exchanges? What does it mean for there to be an American economy, a Chinese economy, or a global economy? Delimitations on the scope of an economy are fundamentally artificial. There are different institutions that govern exchange relationships in different countries, and those affect the extent to which individuals in those countries exchange with one another. But in the end, unless we're talking about a completely isolated group, what exists in the world today is a truly global economy. Economists look for social order. This is no different from any other scientific discipline. Cosmologists see order in the stars and planets of the universe, despite the second law of thermodynamics, which says that all things are tending toward disorder. Biologists observe a miracle of life in the structural order of a cell. Economists see miracles in the structures of human society, the interactions in the market, in politics, and in every other social setting. We are enthralled with the everyday activities resulting from exchange, and not only money exchanges. Well then, what's a market? Simply the process by which buyers and sellers interact and exchange such that those resources flow from low-value uses to high-value uses. A market is a process. Individual market participants are being forced continually to adjust their activities according to patterns that are imposed by the activities of others. The central miracle of economics is that the broad variety of human individual tastes, preferences, and endowments, through voluntary interaction and exchange, produces a coordinated social system without it ever having been intentionally designed or instituted. Economists emphasize the phenomenon of unplanned order, order that seems to emerge from chaos, or what F.A. Hayek calls spontaneous order, because most of the time we don't even notice it. As we cooperate with other people, institutions emerge to solve problems of complexity or disorder. Without those institutions, we could crumble back into a subsistence level of existence. The focus of this course is on exchange. This is really at the core of what economics is about. Sometimes a textbook will start by talking about the concept of scarcity, which is a good starting place. Much of human purposive action aims at relieving scarcity. But we're able to make a giant leap in human well-being from scarcity through exchange. The average person today is so much better off than just 20 years ago that, in one sense, our jaws should just all be lying on the floor in utter astonishment. Consider the quality of life enjoyed by George Washington, the first president of the United States. How did George die? Among our best guesses is that he died of strep throat. Have any of you ever had strep throat? What was the process for diagnosis and treatment? Well, they stick a cotton swab down your throat and then give you amoxicillin, an antibiotic. What today involves about 2 hours of bother killed George Washington, and he was among the wealthiest people in the world at the time. Most people, for most of human history, have subsisted at about $3 a day in today's dollars, about the cost of a drink at Starbucks. Consider J.D. Rockefeller. He was among the wealthiest people of his time. What did he have that George Washington didn't? Well, there were trolleys, there was fuel, there was more indoor plumbing, there were no slaves, but there were more machines, a life much better than George Washington's. But there still was no TV, no iPod or iPhone, no air conditioning, not very much fresh fruit and vegetables in the wintertime, relatively few antibiotics. There were no heart surgeries. He died of arteriosclerosis, heart disease, something that some of our grandparents have probably recovered from, and you almost certainly will be able to be treated for if you ever come down with it. In many ways, and in ways that are more practical to people in their everyday lives, even people who live in subsidized housing today, below the poverty level, have lives with more comfort and convenience than George Washington or J.D. Rockefeller. Middle-class Americans have more conveniences and more luxurious experiences. Consider Jeff Bezos. He's wealthier, but what can he do with all that money? He could travel the world full-time, but how much better is his health care than yours? How much better is the air conditioning in his house than yours? He has more houses, more rooms in each house, and more clothes, but he can only be in one house at a time. He can only really be wearing one set of clothes at a time. His experienced life is mostly the same as yours. We are wealthy beyond our understanding today. We should all be walking around with our jaws on the ground, amazed at how prosperous we are.